everyone. Welcome to the Bliss Tonic YouTube channel. I'm Michelle Anthony. Thanks so much for being here. Before we get into today's video about the difference between channeled information and telepathic information, click the subscribe button so that you never miss a video release. I release twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, starting next week. I have a bonus episode coming out this Sunday, so subscribe so you always stay in the know. So for today's topic, we're primarily talking about the clairaudient experience of communicating with spirit or spirits. And so I mainly want to highlight the difference between channeling and telepathic communication. And so I'm just going to highlight a little bit of each, how it works for me, but just remember that this is just my experience, and I guarantee you it's going to be different for everyone. And so my intention with putting this out there is to just let you know that you don't have to have all the answers, but this is like working a muscle to practice spending time in the spirit world and seeing how you best receive messages. So hopefully this helps you as you start to practice this on your own. Okay. So first of all, for channeling, it is when a spirit is speaking through you or at the same time as you are delivering the message. What's nice about this is you're not really doing anything. There's not really a whole lot of interpretation that needs to go into it. But what is challenging is that it can be a little bit like predictive text. So it doesn't just come up with a word or a phrase on its own. It only comes as you begin the flow. And now this is just for me. It may be easier for other people, but as channeling is a relatively new gift for me, it's something that I find my ego mind tries to get into the way a lot more than when I'm just using telepathic communication. I am not sure why, but I think it's just the trust of getting into the moment of flow and letting the words flow out of you. So you almost have to be in a more of a trance-like state for channeled information to come through. And honestly, it just depends on the spirit. If I'm giving an Akashic reading, sometimes the spirit will just naturally, without any effort on my part, be speaking through me. Where other times it's very clear that they are just going to convey the message to me, and then I have to then interpret it to the other person. So spirit is speaking through you, whoever it is that is giving you a message, whether it's a keeper of the records, a guide, a loved one, whatever the spirit is that's coming through is the one who is speaking. The challenge is to be clear enough to allow that to come through you. And so yeah, that's my biggest struggle, is to just start talking because they don't deliver the message until you start talking. Again, this is just in my experience, is that there's a very clear block. Like, I'm not getting the information, if that makes sense. Like, I receive it at the same time as it's being spoken through me, if that makes sense. Which is a huge exercise in trust. And honestly, it's a gift that just came through as I've been meditating a lot and following it through on intuitive hits that I get. And one day I was just like, felt really called. I felt a guide come through. It was a whole experience. When I did a guided meditation to meet my spirit guides, and it ended up like being like, okay, why is it shape-shifting? What's going on? And then I got a really strong message to like go put my headphones in and record. And the message that came through was really beautiful. And then since then, I've just kind of been in this process of sharing these gifts in a different way and just trusting it. Okay. The predictive text. So you have to start talking and just start the vocal chain, if that makes sense. So telepathic communication. So the spirit is conveying a message. What's beautiful about this is usually, and this is specifically talking about clairaudience, which is hearing spirit, like hearing words. But I find that sometimes our gifts are like a blurred experience. It's not always like a clear seeing, clear hearing, clear knowing, right? Sometimes we get we don't really know where the information comes from, at least for me. I'll get maybe like a hearing and a knowing at the same time, but definitely I would say hearing is one of my stronger gifts. So what can happen with telepathic communication, which is just hearing things that spirit is saying to you, is sometimes they can speak fast. And if you've ever done any interpreting, which I would take college for Spanish, and I knew interpreting was not for me, because you have to be like listening and speaking at the same time. So with that, like I usually wait till the message is done, and then I try to tell whoever I'm giving a reading to, like what I heard, or if it's for myself, like remember it and then write it down, right? So there's a little bit more room for like missing information. There's a little bit more room for like interpretation in this, because it's not, just somebody speaking through you at the same time as you're receiving it at the same time. It's somebody giving the information and then you sharing it. And so with any like intuitive art, and I love calling it an art because it's really a two-way experience. The artist both interprets something that they want to put out into the world based on an idea that they have, and then the world interprets that art based on their own perspective. And so it really is a two-way interpretation process to this one thing, and that's what I like to think of, when I'm sharing intuitive information, is I'm interpreting what I'm seeing, which makes no sense to me most of the time. It's just like, well, this makes no sense, but here's what's happening. But the client then is interpreting that same information from their perspective, from their experiences. So that's the main difference, is sometimes, you can like miss things. Sometimes it's like, okay, this is like going so fast. And sometimes it's kind of just like, as you're speaking, you're like, wait a minute, what was that one thing they said? And so, yeah, sometimes that can happen. So that's a little bit about channeling versus telepathic communication. Tell me what you think. Do you have any experiences with the difference between channeling and receiving messages through clairaudient means? I would love to hear in the comment section what kind of stuff you find, and if you feel like you receive one more than the other. Thanks for showing up for me and yourself today. I hope you have a lovely day.